Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, 23 March. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Iran has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz if Trump acts on his 48-hour ultimatum, Ukraine and US representatives have met in Miami for peace talks, and the Slovenian election has seen the ruling party tied with the opposition. So firstly, Iran will completely shut down the Strait of Hormuz if US President Donald Trump follows through with his threats to hit Iranian power plants, the IRGC said in a statement on Sunday. If the United States follows through with its threats to hit the power plants, the Strait of Hormuz will be completely closed and it will not be reopened until our destroyed power plants are rebuilt, the military's operational commander said in a statement on state TV. As the US-Israeli war with Iran enters its fourth week, Trump on Saturday threatened to obliterate Iran's energy infrastructure if Tehran failed to fully reopen the strategic waterway within 48 hours. These developments suggest the war is taking a dangerous new turn, despite Trump's remarks just a day earlier that he was considering winding down the military operations. So what? To me, it seems likely that both will happen. Trump will likely strike Iran further, and this isn't to mention what Israel did last night with some of the biggest strikes since the start of the war. And Iran will likely close the straits further, leading to further fuel price increases and just chaos in the energy markets. It appears possible that the US is moving towards limited ground operations, likely around the Strait of Hormuz, to try and secure the firing points for where they are shooting at ships in the strait. And this is likely to be extremely unpopular and also dangerous, even if it is successful. We'll have to wait and see, as Trump is a wild card that is extremely hard to predict, as I've talked about in the past. And next, this is a part of a different article. So US and Ukrainian representatives met for talks in Miami. The US side, including Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. Witkoff called the talks constructive, saying that they were part of ongoing mediation efforts, with discussions focused on narrowing and resolving remaining items to move closer towards a comprehensive peace agreement. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wrote on X, calling the talks important for the world, saying that the teams will continue discussions on Sunday. The key issues is to understand how ready Russia is to move towards a real end to the war, honestly and with dignity, especially now that the tensions have increased geopolitically due to the conflict in Iran. So what? While they may have been constructive, as they said in the article, there seems to be two significant hurdles remaining unresolved, and it's unlikely that any peace will come until these two are resolved. That is, if Ukraine will give up any territory and how Ukraine's peace security will be ensured going forward. These are the two huge issues. Ukraine refuses to give up territory, and Russia refuses to have a third-party nation provide peace and security support to Ukraine, likely in the form of Western troops stationed in Ukraine, to ensure that the peace agreement is upheld and that this isn't just a delay for Russia to rearm, recoup, and get ready to go again. And due to that, I think it's unlikely to happen anytime soon, sadly. And to me, it's unlikely that the Iran war changes the situation much for Russia. It's likely that they are pretty self-sufficient when it comes to munitions and drones at this point, having built factories to make Shahed drones themselves. So I don't think the conflict in Iran will change the situation much for them. And lastly, Slovenia's parliamentary election on Sunday looked to end in a two-way tie between the ruling Liberal Freedom Movement Party and the opposition Slovenian Democratic Party. With some 99% of the votes counted, the parties held pretty similar percentages of the votes, with 28.5 versus 28.1. An exit poll published by the public broadcaster TV Slovenia and commercial Pop TV had given the Freedom of Movement Party a greater margin, but this faded as the ballots continued to be counted. So what? So one aspect that wasn't covered off in the above article is that the opposition party has admitted to and been accused of using a private intelligence company called Black Cube to conduct information operations on behalf to try and sway the election their way, which is an extremely interesting thing to do. Black Cube is notorious for conducting similar types of operations in other countries, so they have a somewhat negative reputation due to the types of work that they do. And I thought this was very interesting, just following on from the video I made yesterday for the HM Intelligence YouTube channel, where I looked at Russian intelligence using corporate cover to conduct their operations. Just the growth of corporate intelligence being used by governments to do things that they're not willing to use their own intelligence services for, or can't in this case, where, the Slovenian intelligence agencies are not going to run information campaigns for the opposition party, let alone the ruling party. So yeah, it's very interesting to see politicians starting to use these companies in this way. And it's something that, employees and managers of these companies need to be very aware of, that adverse or, suspicious individuals are not trying to get their companies to conduct clandestine or otherwise adversarial operations on their behalf, as you could get in some significant legal trouble if you do. However, the elections themselves are a similar situation to what we're seeing in most Western countries, with a rise of a more right-leaning party challenging the current ruling party, just due to underlying social challenges such as immigration, housing, and the cost of living, which is basically hitting the Western world extremely hard right now. How this is going to be resolved is currently unclear. I don't actually know. I haven't looked that deep into it outside of the black cube part, as that was the thing I found so interesting about this story. So yeah, possibly something to look into a bit further tomorrow. Anyway, that's been your Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.